Our next story is the final one before we have a break. And so please give a lovely 10x9 Zoom room welcome to Connie Phelps. Just as a content warning, tonight's story from Connie, which is the first time story from her, makes some reference to violence in the home. So just so that you know that, in case that's something that you want to step away from for that. So thank you very much, Connie, for your story. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
I was calling the police on my husband for the first time. The assault in our basement that night was not the first and not the most serious by far, but it was a point at which I was fed up and I wanted help. When I placed the call, I planned to file overdue police reports for the time that he knocked me unconscious, for the night he dragged me around, stopping periodically to punch me, black and blue, for the chokings and the split lip. The night of the call, my husband had merely jumped on me as I knelt at his feet crying, choked me, threw me down, and kicked me. He hated crying. But I thought that I had reached that invisible line inside called done with the damned abuse. I plunged into the records the protagonist left and failed to leave. From the police officer's opening belches on the body-worn camera footage, to my husband's stage-worthy lies to the police, to the things I meant to say, but would have been misrepresented anyway. I found two disagreeing forms of documentation and a veritable prism of realities. What with traumas, collaged memories, and the well-circled wagons of the patriarchy, I couldn't really know what happened, except that the officer in charge at the scene was sporting a brand new body-worn camera. He also brought with him a more traditional recording method, a police report. I now have copies of them both. By the time I opened the door in a pale pink sweater, looking disheveled and avoiding eye contact, there are 3 male police officers, each taller and wider and whiter than the next. They direct me to the bottom of the basement stairs, and Officer Cameraman stays with me for 2 whole minutes while the others go to talk to my husband. "What's going on?" asked Cameraman. My husband jumped on me and pushed me on the ground and choked me and kicked me. My affect is too calm, flat actually, but I put my hands around my neck as I talk to illustrate the choking. On the police report, under immediate statements made by the victim, he writes only, "He jumped me." Officer Cameraman continues with the interview. "You ever have these problems before?" I nod, expecting him to ask for specifics. But instead he says, "Yeah? Okay, how long you guys been married?" On the report, under history of domestic violence, he checks, "No." I try again, pitifully struggling to be heard. I was at his feet crying, and he just lunged at me, threw me on the floor, and grabbed me by the neck. For the second time, I hold my neck with both hands. And while I was on the floor, he kicked me. Officer Cameraman, showing some training, repeats to me what I just said. I nod, and for a 3rd time, put my hands to my neck, the site of the most disturbing trauma. Apparently, he has heard me because he checks yes under strangulation. "Did you hit him at all?" he asks. "No." Cameraman dismisses me, and I go upstairs to sit in the living room, numb, still waiting for the chance to tell my whole story. My interview is over, but the police report keeps going. An intriguing fiction of questions never asked nor answered except on his paper. That is to say, he made all the answers up. Is suspect left-handed or right-handed? Right. Suspect's statements during strangulation? None. Length of strangulation? 3 seconds. Action, if any, taken by the victim? None. Reasons the suspect stopped? He just stopped. Did victim experience any of the following? Problems breathing, loss of consciousness, fading vision or seeing stars, loss of bowels, voice changes? No to all. How did the victim feel afterwards? Okay. Then the police report launches into a lethality assessment. 12 questions that were designed to measure the amount of danger I was in. If any of the essential ones were answered in the positive, it was supposed to trigger a phone call then and there to a lethality response line counselor, a woman at a domestic violence agency who would talk to me directly, tell me I was in danger, and discuss my options with me. That was what I needed desperately, a voice that could provide a haven of truth and sanity, a reassurance that, away from my marriage, there was another way to live, and it would have cost the officers nothing. Officer Cameraman answered all 12 questions in the lethality assessment in the negative, even though I had already affirmed 2. Has he ever tried to choke you? And is there anything else that worries you about your safety? The rest he never asked me. At the bottom, he checked, victim does not screen high risk, and the report's built-in system to reach and save me was thrown into their callous bonfire. It's not illegal for the police to falsify their reports, a prosecutor tells me much later. Of course it isn't. Not yet finished, Cameraman strolls over to my husband and the other officers who plead the assailant's case as if in one voice. Young officer number 2 explains breathlessly. She lunged at him. She's been following him around. My husband, encouraged by all this camaraderie, stands up and chimes in. She jumped on me and I just do like that. He waves his hands gently to the side. And I say, get off of me. You know, you can't hit a girl. Right, sure, says Cameraman soothingly. Husband sits down again and hangs his head. Every bit the martyr. I don't put my hands on women. They encourage him to get a restraining order, or to leave for the night, or to leave me completely. They are problem solving with him. They explain to him how to press charges against me. Can you do that against your own wife? He asks innocently. My husband is a lawyer, but he hasn't told them that, and playing dumb is going quite well for him. Then, with no warning, the really remarkable thing happens. You can also go to a judge and get an emergency health petition on her, the sergeant pipes up. Right. Officer Cameraman is enthusiastic. We will come take her and she'll get checked out and they won't let her go until they come to some resolution. The hospital takes care of it. This from the man who had checked calm under victim demeanor in the report, almost the only truth he included. My husband agrees and brightens up. He is clearly surprised as to how well this has gone for him, like a drug addict who has a brush with the police and they cheerfully offer him a whole bag of pure cocaine. The power to institutionalize your wife at will with the help of the police, that's a high any abuser would dream of. There is no door between the living room and the basement, and I hear the part about forcible commitment loud and clear. I am alone in a house with 4 hostile men. It is the dead of night, and they are hatching an incomprehensible plan that only proves what I already knew. My abuser is magically all-powerful, and no one will ever help me. Would they have handled it in this way if I was assaulted by a stranger on the street? Why did being attacked in my basement make me worthless and crazy? My body shudders in a spasm of fear from my neck to my toes. What are they going to do with me? In 15 minutes, I have morphed from a cautiously courageous truth teller into the disintegrating ice statue at the center of their 4-man waltz of intimidation and deceit. My small dog is on my lap, and she barks helplessly to try to protect me as they climb the stairs to the living room, and I stare at the floor in mute, cold terror.
Connie, thank you so much for telling us that home from home story. And that's taking the home from home, the way that you tell it. We're always so moved when we put out a theme and we get all kinds of stories from people, come from different points of view. And yours is so important. Thank you.
Well, thank you for including me.
Oh, of course.